Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CERBA seminar with the Embassy of Uzbekistan, Trade and Investment in Uzbekistan, derived by last economic modernization. This event is organized with sponsorship support of B2Gold, our long-term member and supporter, one of the most active international players in Uzbekistan gold mining sector in the meantime. The technical support is provided by ECMB Capital Partners. The event moderator today is His Excellency John Sloan, the former ambassador of Canada to Russia, Armenia, and Uzbekistan. Mr. Sloan is a member of CERBA-Vancouver Board of Directors and active participant of our activities for many years. Our guest speakers today are His Excellency Mr. Javlon Vakhabov, the ambassador of Uzbekistan in the US and Canada, and Mr. Nodir Ayupov, the director of the Uzbekistan chapter of Schneider Group, our distinguished member and supporter. Before we start, I would like to make few household remarks. Please notice that all participants of this event are muted. We are currently having around 80 plus companies attending the session. Those of you who would like to ask a question or make a remark are invited to type this into the Q&A box, and we will read them to the speakers after each presentation. I now pass the stage to our event moderator, His Excellency John Sloan. John, over to you.
Good morning, everybody, and I hope you can hear me. I'd like to begin by thanking Tatiana for this initiative in our world of isolation, social distancing, and no travel, and also thank B2Gold for sponsoring this event. Unless you are an intrepid reader of The Economist, you might have missed the end of the year Economist Award for Country of the Year. And perhaps surprisingly, the Country of the Year in 2019 was Uzbekistan. This beat out many other countries around the world who have made improvements, others who have moved backwards. And I think it's a reflection, both factual and looking ahead. What has happened in Uzbekistan has been some major changes over the last several years. But what The Economist makes very clear is that the country needs to continue on the path that it's on and continue the reforming process if it is to achieve its full potential. I'd like to briefly look at three areas related to trade and investment, and then turn it over to Nodir Ayupov of the Schneider Group to talk about what it's like on the ground. And we will also hear from the Embassy of Uzbekistan for the United States and Canada. The three areas are geostrategic, geopolitical, and resources. So let's start with geostrategic. As one of only two countries in the world that are double landlocked, Uzbekistan occupies an absolutely crucial geostrategic position in the world, existing as it does between the great powerhouse of China, underneath Russia, and on the way to Europe. There would be no Silk Road without Uzbekistan. Places like Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, even the Fergana Valley, these were crucial and always have been crucial to the world's land links from Asia to Europe and beyond. And that has not changed in our world today. You go to a place in Uzbekistan like Navoy, and it is now one of the, or it is becoming one of the crucial air hubs between Asia and Europe, a fact that has been recognized by, of all countries, South Korea. So the pivotal position of Uzbekistan in our globalized world has not changed and will not change. I think any examination of Eurasia, of links between Asia and Europe, has to take Uzbekistan into account. Secondly, geopolitical. Uzbekistan continues to carve out a certain margin for maneuver. Uzbekistan has not joined the Eurasia Economic Union, the Russian-supported economic group, and it also has not fully signed on to China's Belt and Road Initiative. It is trying to create a space for itself to operate as one of the leading regional states in the Eurasia region. I think this gives it an importance that perhaps sort of exceeds its size. And I think, you know, any long-term view as to relations between Europe and Asia has got to take Uzbekistan into account, and therefore it increases its geopolitical importance. Third, the area of resources. The economy of Uzbekistan, certainly during Soviet times, was very much dependent upon cotton. Cotton remains extremely important for the Uzbek economy, but it's not the only area of importance. In terms of global reserves, Uzbekistan's global reserves of gold stand 7th, its global reserves of copper stand 10th, and its global reserves of uranium stand 12th. It also increasingly has important reserves of oil and gas, and therefore it is an economy that has an incredible amount of potential. I come back to my first comments about economic reform. If economic reform continues, then the country can develop those reserves up to their full potential and for the benefit of the entire Uzbek country. So it is a country with an awful lot of ability, highly educated population, good transportation, and getting better transportation routes. So it is a country that I think certainly well deserves our attention in terms of both trade and investment. So I'm going to stop there. I hopefully have laid out reasons why we should be paying attention to Uzbekistan, and I'm going to turn it over, I think, first to Nodir Ayupov of the Schneider Group. But Tatiana, I'm at your beck and call.
All right, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for passing me over the speech. So let's start with the presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. On behalf of Schneider Group, I thank you for joining us today and allowing me to have this opportunity to share great news about a country, Uzbekistan, that has recently widely opened its gates to the world. Those keeping their eyes on Central Asian region not only have already heard about this new country of opportunities, but are already taking actions to benefit from it. So Uzbekistan is the central state of Central Asia, expanding over the vast 447,000 square kilometers. The territory can be compared with such countries as Germany, Japan, UK, and California state of US. The most valuable asset of our country is 32.9 million people constituting our population. And young people makes 60% of our population. So in this sense, I would say that we're one of the youngest countries in the world, full of potential. And the potential is really out there due to one of the highest rate of literacy in our country. So now that since 2017, our gates were widely open to the world, this potential is just sitting there waiting to be harnessed. Out of 81 universities and institutes in our country, 21 are IT-oriented, and 7 are affiliates of international universities. And in general, we have around 60,000 young people graduating universities each year. Now let's have a look at some key figures about Uzbekistan. Gross domestic product has reached nearly $55 billion in 2019. The contribution of sectors of economy to GDP is distributed as follows. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing accounts for 19% of it. Industry accounts for nearly 34%, and services account for the remaining 47% of the total GDP. External trade turnover in 2019 has nearly reached $42.2 billion, with $17.9 billion attributed to exports and $24.3 billion attributed to imports. The national currency of Uzbekistan is called SOM, and its current exchange rate to US dollar is fluctuating and is, as of today, equal somewhere around 10,121. GDP per capita was $1,532 or $6,930 based on purchasing power parity. The urbanization is 51% live in cities and towns, with remaining 49% living in rural areas. And according to the World Bank Doing Business rating, Uzbekistan managed to shift 18 points up, raising from 87th place in 2016 to 69th place in 2019. Such a big jump, in my opinion, in 3 years surely draws attention of business community. At the end of 2016, as you may have known, or I'm sure that you are aware of it, after taking over Uzbekistan's presidency, Mr. Mirziyoyev, the president, and his team have introduced the development strategy for his first term of presidency, from 2017 till 2021. And this strategy includes development of state governance, rule of law and legal reforms, development and liberalization of the economy. And these actually 2 areas where priority is given by the government to attract investments. Development of social sphere, and the last, security, religious tolerance, interethnic harmony, and foreign policy. And detailed analysis of each of these strategies are a separate topic for another webinar, I think. In general, I would note that reforms under these strategies was recognized by The Economist edition that awarded Uzbekistan with the Country of the Year 2019 award. Due to currency liberalization in Uzbekistan, trade balance has been affected with more imports rising significantly compared to exports, going up slightly. As you can see here, this figure is yet another proof of currency market liberalization and easement of foreign exchange control since 2017 September. Among others, mostly imported goods, as you can see here, are cars and equipment, chemical products, food, and metal. Biggest partners of Uzbekistan so far, I would mention that they being China, Russia, and South Korea. Uzbekistan is mainly considered yet as a raw materials exporting country, mostly, not only, and major export items are gold, gas, and textile. It's been already mentioned by Mr. Ambassador. Again, major export trading partners here are China, Russia, and neighboring Kazakhstan. If we look briefly into the taxation system of Uzbekistan, which has been developed and discussed for the last 2 years, and very big changes were introduced, which is also can be discussed separately, there are two major taxpayer categories starting 2020. Companies with an annual turnover of under 1 billion Uzbek soms, which is equivalent of around 97,000 euros. These companies may choose to be subject to simplified tax regime and pay so-called single tax payment, ranging from 4 to 25% based on type of operation. The second category of companies, these are the companies with an annual turnover of more than 1 billion Uzbek soms, or more than equivalent of 97,000 euros. Here, tax policy completely changes, and companies are subject to taxation under so-called general tax regime, where income tax, taxes on water and land, as well as value-added tax and salary-related taxes are imposed. Ladies and gentlemen, as a short summary for investment climate change in Uzbekistan for the last 3 or 4 years, 3.5 years, I would come up with the following major reforms that new government and president have implemented so far. Inconsistent foreign policy up until 2016 was completely reset, along with introduction of visa-free regimes with 86 countries, or even more as of today. Introduction of a green corridor for customs clearance procedures in all air and terrain gates of Uzbekistan. Restriction of freedom of speech turned to a softened mass media censorship. Organization of various platforms for discussing investor problems, and I would mention also, last but not least, creation of virtual offices of president and the prime minister for citizens. Lack of conversion was abolished by currency liberalization, currency conversion. The ability to freely repatriate dividends and profits by foreign companies, or even local ones, and most importantly, the ability to purchase of foreign currency by individuals. As a result of all these restrictions, there was a lack of investor confidence and interest in Uzbekistan as a market for investment until 2016. Reforms have made it possible to give an access to cash withdrawals from bank cards and accounts by individuals. Yes, it may sound strange. There were times with such restrictions that dissipated in the past. The government finally has granted top world financial rating organizations to objectively evaluate the sovereign rating for the country, giving it initial B stable ranking. A moratorium on tax audits until January 2021, which is actually has been revised due to COVID-19. Initially was March the 31st, I think, of 2020, but it has been revised and postponed until January 2021. And most importantly, the entrance of world brands to the market of Uzbekistan. While there are a lot of attractive areas for investment in Uzbekistan, including oil and gas, mining, solar and wind energy, etc., I would like to point out 3 key industries that play significant role in the economy of Uzbekistan. The first one is agriculture, of course. Uzbekistan is one of the largest producers of fresh fruit and vegetable in the world. And the government is maintaining active state agriculture policy aimed at efficiency and sustainability of agricultural products, followed by export, mostly, of course, to CIS countries. Having a stable 6 to 7% annual growth, this sector of economy is aiming at exceeding $5 billion volume annually. This sector of economy, being one of the strategic ones, of course, is included into the development strategy roadmap of Uzbekistan until 2021. The next important area or industry, I would say, is the textile industry. Historically, Uzbekistan has been considered as cotton raw material center of Soviet Union. And it remained, unfortunately, as such, almost 20 years afterwards, until around 6 to 7 years ago, the country started intensively developing its own textile industry, adding value to its finished and semi-finished goods. Currently, Uzbekistan is producing cotton yarn, garment and hosiery and fabrics, and it has exported already for more than 1.6 billion US dollars in 2019. Here we can mention not only good quality cotton, but also skilled labor, vast amount of raw materials, low-cost energy resources, and access to markets. Uzbekistan is currently actually discussing its next step with so-called cooperation and partnership agreement of the European Union about reduction of rates of European Union customs payments to zero. Currently, we benefit from reduced rate of 6% import duties established by European Union. The third one, I would mention automotive industry. This industry is relatively new one, and this is the second largest one in the CIS market, with an output reaching around 270,000 units in 2019. The government is ready to provide investors willing to consider this segment of economy with different types of incentives in terms of reduced taxable profits, privileges in value-added tax, and custom duty payments, and etc. Major production areas are located in Tashkent city, Samarkand, Khwarezm, and Fergana valleys. As a result of previously mentioned reforms being undertaken with an emphasis on creating favorable conditions for foreign direct investment, the total number of investors in the country exceeded 7,000 in 2019 and is rising very rapidly. Key investing countries here, I would mention being USA, Turkey, South Korea, Germany, Russia, Japan, and others. In fact, foreign direct investment in 2019 reached 4.2 billion US dollars compared to 2.8 billion US dollars in 2018. As you can see in the chart, the distribution of foreign direct investment by sectors, the significant part of it is attributed to mining industry, 57%, 13% attributed to manufacturing industry, then 10% goes to information and communication, and 9% to transportation and storage. And the remaining 11 consists of different like healthcare, electricity and gas supply, water use, and sewage. Attractive areas I would also mention and not leave them without attention are commercial banks, for example. All commercial banks in Uzbekistan, they are eagerly waiting when new players will enter the market with new online and mobile banking engine solutions. Until now, we have a monopoly in this segment in terms of one major company is providing this engine support for all banks, and it is limiting possibilities to further develop their online and mobile products to individuals and to companies. Insurance companies, where there is a very high demand in Uzbekistan for voluntary medical insurance and voluntary car accident insurances. These are just examples. I would say that they are offered in the market, but in a very limited amount. So this is also a very attractive area that investors can pay attention to. Energy sectors, of course, are developed rapidly, and high demand for solar and wind energy in Uzbekistan led to a lot of government tenders offered to foreigners for the last 2-3 years. Oil and gas industry needs investment to highly demanded high-octane gasoline, for example. Is just an example. So there are other, of course, attracting areas in the oil and gas industry as well. Chemical industry is very attractive in Uzbekistan, being rich for fertilizer resources and high demand in agriculture for these fertilizers. Pharmaceutical industry is also worth mentioning, with analysis showing, the market research showing that only 23% of pharmaceutical products are produced locally, and the government has planned to bring it to 80% localization. So it's another very attractive area to consider. And of course, last but not least, textile industry, as it's been mentioned already. High quality goods, textile goods, they attract a lot of European manufacturers, and many European manufacturers, they already contract manufacturing in Uzbekistan. So these are just quite some examples of attracting areas for investment to consider. Here is the detailed list of not all, but several foreign companies that invested in Uzbekistan. Some of them, like Coca-Cola, are present in Uzbekistan from 1994, and some of them are fresh new, like, for example, Indorama, for example, petrochemical industry that has, if I'm not mistaken, they've started their operations from January 2018. All of these companies feel themselves comfortable in our country and prosper even more, enjoying recent changes in the economy and new reforms. These two slides further, you will see that the government, these are the government programs elaborated specifically for foreign direct investment with partial participation of state companies, and offered, the government offers strong investment protection guaranteed by itself, by the government. So these are private clinics, chemical industry, as has been mentioned, apparel, t-shirts, tourism is a very attractive area, data centers, mobile apps, and here you can see also fridge warehouses, jeans, personal care, wine production, household chemical, etc. These are separate topics that we can discuss in details and give more information on what potential or what investment opportunities in each specific area are being offered by the government. Free economic zones actually in Uzbekistan is becoming more and more common and very popular. Currently, there are 22 free economic zones operating in Uzbekistan, with major ones located in Angren town, Navoiy, Gizduvan, Urgut, Jizakh, Hazaras, and Kokan. Companies deploying and localizing their operations in any of these mentioned 22 free economic zones will be subject to the following privileges and preferences. They're all exempt from common and normal taxes and payments that businesses located outside of these areas are subject to. Specifically, free economic zone members are fully exempt from land tax. You can see on the right side the rates or amounts normally being paid by the companies. They are exempt from land tax, property tax, income tax, single tax payment, and customs payments for raw materials, equipment, and components, depending on the amount of investment made. So investment up to $3 million are exempt for 3 years. From 3 to 5 million US are exempt for 5 years, and etc. Up to 10 years or even more, depending on the industry as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, these were just some example of opportunities created by the president, his team, and the head of the government for foreign companies and investors considering Uzbekistan as an investment country with investment opportunities. To make sure that your investment program fully benefits from all available opportunities in the country, Schneider Group is your trusted guide and consultant in Uzbek market with broad spectrum of services. As you can see, currently we offer the following major services to our partners, like market entry services, ERP systems, account automation, interim management, and localization of production. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to Uzbekistan, the country of investment opportunities. Thank you very much, and I'm at your disposal for any questions.
It was a very good presentation, and I thought you basically covered all the bases that would be of interest to those who are in sort of looking at investing in Uzbekistan. As I said earlier, the potential is there.
Yeah.
Reforms are coming. The two just have to come together.
Right, exactly. And we as a non-governmental but a private and a foreign company operating in Uzbekistan can give, I would say, objective information about what's really going on in the market and what can be obtained. I mean, what are the reforms, actual reforms taking place in Uzbekistan, and we can be of help how to deal with day-to-day routine operations to reach goals easily and in a very quick way, efficient way.
Sir, I've got the Q&A box open, but at this point I have no open questions. So if any of the participants have a question, would they type it in on the Q&A screen? To the United States and Canada, the ambassador was both the deputy minister and the first deputy minister at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I don't think he needs any other introduction. So, Mr. Ambassador, I turn it over to you.
Ambassador Sloan, so dear participants, I'm very sorry for being late. So I was requested to participate at the video conference chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, who is in charge of trade and investment issues in the government of my country. So now, so the video call is over and I'm at your disposal. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to represent Uzbekistan, actually to give an update on the current situation in the economy of my country, being significantly affected by the COVID-19. So as a result, just according to the latest updates that I have, GDP growth was 5.3% in the first quarter of 2020. So, and it will be, as we project, 4.1, 4.4 in the second quarter of the current year. And we expect also that industry growth rate is about 4%. So, but at the same time, we are actually eyewitnessing how the export is dropping for almost 11%. Import has already decreased by 10%. And at the same time, as you are well aware, so the people of Uzbekistan are requested to stay at home order. So actually the entire population, almost 34 million people, so have been self-isolated nowadays, but at the same time, so the President's office, the entire government officials and our local governments are still working, and the main agenda, the main goal of the video conference attended by the Deputy Prime Minister was actually about how we should gradually switch to another stage, how we should reopen the entire economy. So it's a tough issue, even here in America, as I'm witnessing as an ambassador. So, but at the same time, so we put the people's health over the economy, but at the same time we proceed from the understanding that most vulnerables should be protected by the government, by the state. So in this regard, so the President has adopted several decrees, a wide range of decrees, starting from how we should protect the people of Uzbekistan, how we should tackle those challenges related to the COVID-19. In particular, I'm talking about the purchase of PPE, personal protective equipment, on the reconstruction and repair of medical facilities, and also about the wage that we are going to increase for all healthcare workers in Uzbekistan. But at the same time, the government is is working on how the local entrepreneurs, primarily the private sector, should focus on increasing its exports to neighboring countries. And as you may know, I believe, so a gentleman who has been connected from Tashkent, I believe has already updated you with regard to the current investment climate in my country, with regard to those business opportunities that the government is committed to creating to all foreign companies operating in our country. So at this moment, just again, prior to those disruptions that I believe all countries across the globe are facing to nowadays. So the increase of GDP was projected by the World Bank about 6%, but nowadays the World Bank has already reconsidered its forecasts with regard to further steps of the Uzbek economy, and in particular to the latest updates. So we expect that the growth itself is projected to reduce sharply to around 1.6% based on latest estimates, again due to COVID-19 outbreak. That is still a severe disruption to Uzbekistan economy that I mentioned. With regard to those significant efforts that have been taken by the government since 2016, when the new president came to power, just a few facts I would like to stress on, and I'm talking about the profit repatriation and currency control. Both of them are no longer the case in Uzbekistan, and as you may know, both of these issues have been hindering the flow of FDI to the Uzbek economy, and now we've lifted these barriers. And what we used to have in the past, just to compare, in the past the rate itself was fixed by the government, so the private entities and entrepreneurs were required to sell the revenues in foreign currencies to the government, at least 50%. Moreover, just only several foreign companies were allowed to sell and purchase foreign currencies, and moreover, the profit repatriation itself was strictly prohibited by the government. Now what we do have nowadays, so all these issues in the past, so we have already overcome all these difficulties, and actually it is recognized that so these steps are still being recognized by the world community, in particular by the World Bank, that placed my country, according to the latest report, doing business, at 69th, if I'm not mistaken. Again, if you compare what we used to have in the past. In the past, Uzbekistan was on 166th, sharing the row with such countries as Afghanistan, Iraq, Zimbabwe, and over the last years, we've actually jumped from 166th to 69th place according to the World Bank's annual report doing business. So beside that, we are currently undergoing the privatization process in my country. So just for example, the cotton industry that Uzbekistan is well known across the globe has already been privatized, actually 100%. The countries that has been producing almost 3 million tons of raw cotton now, fully owned by the private sector. And we've introduced so-called cluster production system. So by this means, we expect that private entities and local entrepreneurs, in particular foreign farmers, who are currently working in the Uzbek market, are able to mechanize the entire process, are able to bring the best knowledges and best expertise that the most developed part of the world is able to share with Uzbekistan. And that is a way how we are actually introducing market-oriented principles. So beside that, another sector that is also being privatized is the banking sector. Unfortunately, nowadays, almost 75% of local banks, of commercial banks, are state-owned. And in this regard, so we have attracted the World Bank to take part in the privatization of the entire banking sector of Uzbekistan. So, actually, the World Bank itself will be operating on behalf of the Uzbek government in terms of transferring these state-owned banks to private entities and even foreign financial institutions. In this regard, so we've over the last years we've been able to open the banking sector to foreign financial institutions. So nowadays, so Uzbekistan is a place where you may find Turkish, Japanese, many Russian, Georgian banks that are successfully operating in my country. So another significant step, again, in comparison to those previous years that we used to have in the past. That is about PPP, private partnership programs that we are currently introducing in Uzbekistan. Just last year, the parliament of my country has adopted PPP law, new PPP law, and in this regard, today you may find a lot of ongoing projects in Uzbekistan based on PPP principles, and beside that, we are offering to our foreign partners more than 10 huge PPP projects amounting to almost more than $10 billion. So that is a way how we are working with our foreign partners. Beside that, so the current administration has prioritized Uzbekistan's accession to WTO in the coming years. So currently we are working with the WTO's office in Geneva, and beside that, even the Uzbekistan embassy here in the US is widely involved into this process. So we are closely working with USTR's office, with the Commerce Department, in terms of conducting fourth working group session with the WTO member countries. By the way, we have already conveyed answers to more than 300 questions raised by the WTO office and state members. So and we are currently discussing the MOU on trade, and new preferences that we are requesting being a member of the World Trade Organization. So with regard to FDI, I believe this issue has been also touched upon prior to my interference into today's conference. Here, just I would like to point out that today our key partners are the following, as you may know well. So China that has replaced Russia in 2016 with its trade turnover amounted to almost $7.6 billion. So nowadays Russia comes second with its $6.6 billion. Of course, our key neighbor Kazakhstan is widely trading with Uzbekistan, and the volumes of bilateral trade turnover is about $3.4 billion. And in the top 10 countries, of course, you may find South Korea, Turkey, the United States, and others. And here I would like to stress on good neighborliness policy that the new president, new administration of Uzbekistan is currently promoting. So over the last 3.5 years, so we've been able to bring a new political atmosphere to the region of Central Asia. So we actually found out proper solutions to so many challenging disputes that we used to have in the past with our neighbors. And I'm talking about water management issues, I'm talking about border disagreements, and I'm talking about restrictions with regard to trade and travel within the region of Central Asia. And all these headaches left in the past. Today we are building a new partnership within the region of Central Asia that is inhabited, as you may know, by more than 70 million people, and Uzbekistan is also is known as the most populous nation in the region of Central Asia. And we, so before we started introducing good neighborhood policy in the region of Central Asia, we were proceeding from a very open and simple understanding. So as the new president of Uzbekistan has pointed out at the very beginning of his tenure, so our priority, as it was mentioned, so people's interests come first. In this regard, so we've lifted all barriers at the border. It's getting much easier to cross the border within the region of Central Asia. We've introduced non-visa regime to neighboring Tajikistan. So we've concluded a long-awaited agreement on border issues with neighboring Kyrgyzstan. That agreement that covers almost 85%. Moreover, so with regard to neighboring Afghanistan, Uzbekistan was the first, I believe, country in the region of Central Asia that allowed Afghanistan Airways to carry out direct flights between Kabul and the capital of my country, Tashkent, the city of Tashkent. We've been able to establish strategic partnership with neighboring Turkmenistan. By the way, Turkmenistan was the first country that my president has visited right after he has been elected, and again it shows, it signifies how we are prioritizing our relations with our neighbors. And by the way, second abroad trip of my president took place to neighboring Kazakhstan. And again, that was a way how we've started introducing those long-awaited changes into the region of Central Asia. Besides that, again, thanks to the Uzbekistani leadership, we've been able to to bring together all leaders of the entire Central Asia to Uzbekistan. So last year, in the fall, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Tashkent was hosting the leaders of all neighboring countries. For the first time, we've been able to bring all of them together since 2009. And again, it shows how, again, summarizing those tireless efforts aimed at uniting the entire region, I can make a conclusion that there hasn't been a time in the modern history of the region of Central Asia when the entire region when all countries of Central Asia were very much supportive to each other, were very much united, and very much engaged in enhancing trade and investment issues. So by this means, Uzbekistan's candid desire, Uzbekistan's candid wish is to be the place where foreign companies may find most favorable conditions in the region. By this means, we would like those foreign companies operating in Uzbekistan to get an access to almost 45 countries surrounding Uzbekistan and including the entire region. 45 countries that my country, that Uzbekistan has free trade agreements. That means, so once you set up the joint venture in Uzbekistan and start producing your commodities in my country, so you will be able to export these products without any duties to those countries. And again, if we combine this entire figure, so you may find on the one hand the market that could be covered by the market that could lead you to new destinations inhabited by almost 400 million people. Huge market. I'm talking about Russia, I'm talking about China, and I'm talking about another emerging market neighboring Afghanistan. So with regard to this country, so we've significantly changed our approach to Afghanistan, in particular in terms of Afghan settlement issues. And over the last 3.5 years, both presidents, President Mirziyoyev and President Ghani, have met more than 7 times over the last 3.5 years. Again, it shows how we are very much supportive to Afghanistan, in particular to the revival of its economy. And by this means, again, it's not a secret. I will try to be very honest with you. So by this means, we would like just to unlock Uzbekistan. By this means, we would like to have a direct access to the nearest seaports located in both in Iran and Pakistan as well. So, and actually, for the sake of these purposes, Uzbekistan was the first nation in the region, I believe, across the globe, that started building a railway in northern part of Afghanistan. The country that has never had the railway communications in its history. And my country was the first among those that has already built so the railway that starts from southern part of Uzbekistan and connects to Mazar-e-Sharif. So our next step is to connect this Afghan city with Herat, and of course with with Herat heading to Iran. That's the first version of how we are going to implement this long-awaited project in Afghanistan. Of course, another part of this project is mostly related to Pakistan. So we would like to reach out to the Pakistani seaports. By this means, we would like to open. To create most favorable conditions to all our exporters, to those private entities that are looking for new markets across the globe. Let me stop here, and again, thank you so much for this opportunity to give you an update on the current issues, how we are tackling COVID-19 related challenges, and of course, so we are also hardly working on reopening the entire economy. So once the COVID-19 is over, hopefully you will have a chance. You will have a chance to visit my country, to eyewitness those changes taking place in the region. You know, by the way, one point that I would like to stress on is mostly related to travels. You know, over the last 3.5 years, so we've, I mean, the government of Uzbekistan has introduced non-visa regime to almost 90 countries across the globe, including Canada. So the Canadians are free to travel to Uzbekistan without any visa requirements, and they are allowed to stay in the country within 30 days without any additional visa requirements. Again, it shows how my country is opening up not only to its own people, but also to the world. And as a result, by the way, nowadays, just for your information, so at the beginning of 2020, the New York Times, the newspaper that you are well aware of, included Uzbekistan into the 52 must-visit destinations across the globe, and Uzbekistan is among them. So again, it shows that it is very much safe to travel to my country. It's a great chance to look at those centuries-old cities that are included into the UNESCO World Heritage list, and at least 3 of them that I strictly recommend to all of you to visit once the coronavirus slow down, and my country will be happy to host all of you. Again, thank you so much for having me today, and I'm very pleased to be connected to today's video conference, and floor is yours. So I'm ready to answer your possible questions that you would like to address to me. Thank you.
And I think we have 9 questions now. We have just under 20 minutes. So let me start with the first question from Kay Pearson concerning what local content rules exist. And I guess, Nodir, why don't we start with you, and then we can turn to the ambassador. Notice you answered in typing, but I think everybody is interested in all the other questions as well, so if you could answer them verbally. The first question was, what local content rules exist in Uzbekistan?
What do you mean by local content rules? That was the question. I was trying to get a rephrased version of it.
Okay, well, let me move to the next question, and if Kate Pearson can come back with a more detailed question. Actually, the second question is for you specifically, Nodir. they asked whether the Schneider presentation will be available to everybody.
Yes, it will be sent, I think, by the leaders of this webinar. But if needed, I can also send individually everyone interested in this.
Okay, thank you. The next question I think is for both of you. It's from Mark, and he asked, where does one turn to for detailed market information?
So, you know, nowadays, the Ministry for Foreign Investments and Trade has been defined by the government the key agency that provides the foreign companies with all necessary information with regard to the market issues, with regard to specific sectors of our economy that foreign companies are looking for new opportunities. So in this regard, moreover, we have a special website that is available to the public, and in particular to the foreigners, where you may find all the info that you are interested in. So, and in particular, so you've mentioned, you've touched upon the mining sector. Here I would like to emphasize that last year was very much successful in terms of expanding our trade and investment partnership with Canada. So we've been able to bring to the Uzbek market Canadian-based mining company, B2Gold, that is currently operating in Uzbekistan and mostly focusing on excavating the gold reserves. You know, Uzbekistan is rich enough and well known with its gold reserves, and with regard to the legislation, with regard to new regulations that we've been able to introduce over the last 3.5 years, I would like to point out that these sectors that used to be hidden, used to be restrictive in the past. Now it's becoming much more transparent, and over the last years we've been able to provide all the data with regard to the mining sector to our foreign companies. And what we used to have in the past, this data was also restricted, and again, due to the Soviet era, I would say, that we've inherited in the past. Now all this data are and information are available through online, and you may find and get the required information yourself. And beside that, and I believe the best way to know what conditions the Uzbek government has created to foreign companies is to start talking to them. With regard to Canada, so I have all the name at B2Gold that is coming from Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. And with regard to the US companies, you know, over the last 25 years, so more than 45 US-based companies have been expanding their presence in the Uzbek market. And among them, GM, General Motors, that owns 2 plants in Uzbekistan, plants that are producing more than 10 types of Chevrolet. General Electric, that is supplying its turbines to power plant stations operating in my country. John Deere, that is supplying harvesting and seeding machines to our farmers. CMDH Industrial, that also has its own facilities in Uzbekistan, and it produces tractors and other machinery needed not only by the Uzbek farmers, but they are also exporting to neighboring countries. So that is a way how we are hosting the foreign companies in Uzbekistan, and actually creating the most favorable conditions that we are affording to all of them.
Thank you, Ambassador. Next question, again, I think probably is for both of you, from Fuad, asking what plans there are for private and public pension reforms, specifically in the areas of regulation, governance, and asset management.
So, as I mentioned in my remarks, the entire country is undergoing through privatization. So, just 1.5 years ago, so we've established a state asset management agency that is deeply involved in privatization, and it is. Its key goal is to reduce states' share in the economy. Most of those state-owned enterprises covering such sectors as chemical industry, in particular enterprises producing fertilizers, banking sectors that I mentioned above, mining, pharmacy, heavy machinery, and many others. All those state-owned enterprises, most of them have been already privatized. The rest part is expected to be privatized in the years to come, and by this means. We would like to get more private entities, those people who, as I mentioned, who will be able to manage previously state-owned companies. And in this regard, so the president has taken decision to establish another agency that is in charge of capital market issues. So, by the way, this agency, CMDA, we call it Capital Development Market Agency, is run by American, with American who is an Uzbek native, and I believe he's the only member of the current government who is an American, who has an American citizenship, and now he is running this governmental agency, and his key responsibility is to help the government to sell the state shares in the state-owned industries, covering all those sectors that I mentioned above, and by this means, this agency is also responsible for arranging IPO and helping those state-owned companies to reach out to stock exchange here in America, in London. And by the way, last year we've been able to reach very successful deal, I would say, deal that is amounting to almost $1 billion. So, and I'm talking about Eurobonds that we've been able to put forward at the London Exchange. And again, the expectation was very low, but as a result, so we've been able to have a very successful deal, and now the finance ministry is deeply involved in getting those resources, those financial resources amounted to almost $1 billion. That will be meant primarily for the implementation of a wide range of investment projects we do have in Uzbekistan. By the way, again, if you look at the numbers, last year the total volumes of FDIs that we've been able to attract to the Uzbek economy increased $4.2 billion. That is 3 times, yes, 3 times higher that it was projected.
Thank you, Ambassador. Given Nodir's background with Uzbek Airlines, I guess the next question would be for you, asking if there are any restrictions on investment in the airline industry.
Actually, the airline industry is the airline industry in Uzbekistan is being completely reformed. That being said, if until, let's say, October 2019 or November 2019, all civil aviation related subsidiaries like air traffic control, airports, fueling, ground handling, and stuff like that, divisions, they belong to one airline, National Air Carrier Uzbekistan Airways. Now it has been reconsidered. Now there is separate airports union, or I would say the Association of Airports of Uzbekistan has been created. It's been separated from the national airline. And other open sky programs are being introduced in different airports throughout Uzbekistan, which also creates possibilities for foreign companies to invest into the development of airports themselves, or to bring other foreign airlines to these airports. And in fact, the airline industry, starting like last year, it's being open for investments for different programs. For example, there was a discussion as well on attracting ground handling companies into the airports. And as far as I know, there were several companies from Arabian countries interested in coming and investigating and analyzing the situation with ground handling. It was not the capital airport, but I think it was Samarkand airport. And so, yes, there are a lot of opportunities now being created. Moreover, the government is pushing and supporting other local airline companies being developed or created in Uzbekistan. That being said, they are diversifying, or they're trying to diversify the local market with not only foreign companies, airline companies, but local companies as well. So in this regard, yes, there are a lot of opportunities being created by the government in civil aviation industry.
Thank you, Nodir. I see we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and ones that I think can be answered quite quickly. First is from Jonathan. Is the telecoms industry free for foreign investment? I guess, Mr. Ambassador?
Yes, definitely it's free. Today, this sector of our economy is mostly occupied by Russian and Chinese-based companies. So Chinese Huawei is widely represented in the Uzbek market. Besides that, Russians well-known companies such as Beeline, if I'm not mistaken, so has been existing in the Uzbek market for more than 15 or almost 20 years. And even this sector of the economy is going through the privatization process. And in this regard, so currently there are no restrictions at all to foreign companies that are interested in looking at this part of our economy. And you also mentioned the air traffic. That was the question that was previously raised. Just a few comments to those that I've heard. For more than 26 years, so the entire air transportation was owned by the state. The airports, so the air traffic, air security issues, all of them have been managed by the government, by the state-owned company. And over the last 3.5 years, we've been able to attract the World Bank's expertise. The bank itself is working on reforming the entire industry of Uzbekistan, and as a result, so last year, so we've been able to separate air security issues, management of airports, and of course the transportation itself. So by this means, as it was advised by the World Bank and other financial institutions, that we've attracted to the reform of the entire sector. So we've been able to reduce the state share in the air transportation. And as a result, so the Uzbek market, the Uzbek air market was able to bring at least 10 or dozens of foreign carriers that are successfully operating nowadays in Uzbekistan. So we've resumed our partnership with UAE-based Fly Dubai. So Lufthansa is coming back to the Uzbek market. So many Russian-based air companies have been expanding their presence in the Uzbek market, and there's a huge demand because the country is opening up to the world. There's a huge demand to travel to Uzbekistan, and by this means, actually, we are allowing all those foreign companies to start operating in Uzbekistan to carry the passengers, travelers to my country, and vice versa. And over the last years, we've been able to explore at least 40 additional destinations across the globe. Huge number, 40 destinations. So in addition to 35 destinations that we used to have in the past. So that is a way how the entire sector of air transportation is being reformed nowadays in my country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. My final question before I turn it back to Tatiana, and I apologize to those who ask questions that won't be answered, but I see you're getting answers on the directly on the open Q&A. The question is from Mark, and I think it's for the ambassador. Can you do business on the visa-free regime, or is it just for tourism?
At the very beginning, we were proceeding primarily from the interest to increase the number of foreigners visiting Uzbekistan. In 2016, only 2.5 million foreigners visited my country. 4 years ago. And last year, and I'm very pleased to let you know about that, almost 7 million foreigners visited my country. And of course, thanks to those changes, thanks to the non-visa regimes that we've introduced to almost 90 countries across the globe. But at the same time, of course, we proceed from the understanding that this non-visa regime should serve for the interest of foreign businesses, people who would like to enter the Uzbek economy. And in this regard, so we've introduced other options that are, by the way, available to our foreign partners. Once any foreign companies attracts, invests, I don't remember the exact numbers, some amount of investments, about it might be 250,000 or $1 million. So these companies, I mean, the owners of these companies and the people who will be hired by these companies are free to live in Uzbekistan without any visa restrictions for more than 3 years. So that is our understanding. That is a way approach that we are still introducing to foreign businesses, those people who are looking for new markets. Of course, our second goal, I would say that our utmost priority is to introduce non-visa regime to foreign businesses, those people who are interested in investing in Uzbekistan. And of course, even currently, Canadians are free to travel to Uzbekistan without any visa requirements. Of course, yes, as a tourist, but at the same time, if they would like to do their business in my country, they may address to those options that I mentioned above. Those options will be dependent on the amount of FDI and the amount of investments that these people are attracting to the Uzbek economy.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank both panelists, Schneider Group and the Embassy of Uzbekistan, and turn the mic back to Tatiana.
Dear speakers and participants, this was an exceptional information that is barely possible to find in one piece from any available informational sources. I would like to thank you all for your time and interest to this fascinating Central Asian country. For the participants interested to have a copy of the Schneider Group presentation at your disposal, please connect with us after the session. For those of you who consider Uzbekistan to be a current or future marketplace, we are offering more sector-focused seminars and workshops in the near future, and invite you to follow our upcoming announcements and email blasts to join them. We are also happy to help facilitate individual business contacts for our member companies who would like to find business partners in Uzbekistan or the other countries situated in the Eurasia region. Please don't hesitate to connect with me or my colleagues across Canada at any time. Our contacts, as well as lots of other useful information, are available at the CERBA website, www.cerbanet.org. I would like to once more time express our gratitude to B2Gold and ECMB Capital Partners for making this event today possible, and wish everyone to stay safe and well at these challenging times.